What's going on, guys? If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Ben and I get to show off really cool cars like this here. This is a Honda Beat. It's a K car from Japan, made for the Japanese market. Today, we're going to be going over everything about this car inside and out. Starting with, what exactly is this thing? The Honda Beat was made from 1991 to 1996. It was Honda's K car sports car, and as you can see, it is a convertible. This was meant to compete with Suzuki's Cappuccino and the AutoZam AZ1 or Mazda AZ1. These three cars are considered the K car trinity and are A, B, C accordingly. AutoZam, Beat, and Cappuccino. Now you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a K car? Well, like the one we're looking at here, K cars are small Japanese cars, trucks, or even vans that are met with a series of restrictions and limitations as to how they're built. For instance, overall size being the biggest one here, can be no longer, no wider, no taller than certain dimensions. Additionally, the engines are met with a big list of restrictions as well, and we'll get to that in just a minute. Basically, what it boils down to is these cars are absolutely tiny, every last one of them, and the Beat being no exception. And the fact that it's a sports car just makes it even more tiny. Like, here is a Beat compared to a normal American car. It's absolutely small. Now, in an attempt to show you just how small this is to get into, because the interior is also small, I am now going to attempt to fit inside of the car here. And there we go. So, as you can see, with the door shut, my leg is firmly pressed up against the door here. I can kind of squeeze it in a little bit, but then it runs into the steering wheel, so I've got that much room to play with. And believe it or not, out of the ABC K cars, this one technically has the most room. So, me being 6'2", for that point of reference, you can kind of see just how small these things are inside. While we're here, let's go over the overall design of the interior, starting with the gauge cluster. And look here, this is special because this car has a 9,000 RPM red line. Again, that goes back to the engine, and we'll get to that here in a minute. You've got your fuel, coolant temperature, as well as your indicator lights over here. And then over here, you've got your speed. Of course, it's in kilometers an hour and not miles an hour, since this is a Japanese car. And then you've got your stock here for your lights. It's on this side. And then on this side, you have your wipers. Normally, there's a radio that goes here from Gathers, but this one has been removed, it's getting worked on. So I'm using it as my cup holder for the time being because I don't know if you can tell, but this car doesn't really have any cup holders anywhere. This car is a 5-speed manual. These were not offered with an automatic transmission. Honda decided that this was going to be a sports car for enthusiasts. Moving to the center here, you can see we've got our air conditioning setup, AC buttons, and a pretty wide array of areas where the air can be directed. And take a listen to the blinker noise. Very much 90s Honda. There is a glove box here, but my hand for reference, it is absolutely tiny, just like the rest of this car. I wonder if you guys can see a theme here. These sun visors, which do come down and they do work, fold out and everything. This one's got an aftermarket steering wheel, but the horn does work. The only thing power operated in most K cars, especially the sports cars, are going to be the windows, and the switches are right here in the middle. Matter of fact, on the doors right here, there's really nothing but a grab handle and of course the handle to get in and out. Most K cars also have a total of 2 speakers. These are located in the doors. Down here in the floorboard, I'm going to move you guys down here so you can see it. That is a spot for the roadside flare. This car also had an option for a cigarette lighter, but as you can see here, this one was not optioned with it. And lastly, behind the seating area here, you do have a spot for your cassettes or CDs. Moving on, let's take a look under the hood. Or rather, I guess I should say the front, because there's no engine here. It's actually in the back. But up front, you have a donut spare, as well as most of your typical service things like your brakes, your steering, coolant, and whatnot. Now, let's get to the meat and potatoes back here, which is the engine compartment. And as you can see, well, you don't really see the engine right off the bat. But if we take a peek behind here, you'll see the 3-cylinder 660cc engine right there. Yes, sits right behind the seats on the firewall. As far as storage goes right here, there's not a whole lot. I mean, I brought my backpack and it wouldn't even fit here, and it's just carrying a little bit of camera equipment. Also back here, you have access to your coolant, and you have your oil here as well. This is how you top off the engine with oil. Apart from those things and a battery and an engine, that's all you really get back here. Now let's talk a little bit more about the engine. So 660 cc's, that's like a motorbike engine displacement, right? Okay, and then a 9,000 RPM, that's like a motorbike engine, right? So you would think this thing has like motorbike performance. Not quite. Again, going back to the limitations of these K cars, this is limited to 64 horsepower. This thing makes a total of 63 horsepower. And again, it weighs about 1,650 pounds, which is actually a little bit heavier than its competitors, and they both have turbocharging. This one does not. What it does have is something called M-Trek. This is Honda's multi-throttle responsive engine control, or in simpler terms, individual throttle bodies. This thing has ITBs versus forced induction, which makes a fantastic noise. But again, compared to its main rivals, it does not have that turbocharger that gives you that extra bit of oomph, but this thing does sound pretty incredible. To recap, 660cc, 64 horsepower, 1,650 pounds, convertible sports car from Honda. It's rear-wheel drive, rear engine, and it's absolutely a load of fun, and we're going to get to that here in a minute. Overall sales statistics of this thing was actually kind of not necessarily a flop, but more of a niche car. Honda ended up producing just over 30,000 Beats over the course of 5 years, and they sold pretty much all of them out. And these things today are becoming super desirable, not only to auto enthusiasts, but also to collectors. That means you can expect to see the price of these things continuing to go up since they're not making any more of these. However, if you're considering purchasing one of the ABC K cars, the Beat is definitely the most economical option. Sometimes you can find these for around half the price of what the AZ1s go for. And again, we're talking North American prices as well. International prices may vary. With all of this out of the way, now we're getting to the driving portion. What's this thing like to drive? So now let's talk about driving the Honda Beat. Now, for a disclaimer, this car has been outfitted with some stiffer springs because this car gets autocrossed very frequently. Driving it on the road causes a lot of vibration, and that looks like this. So yeah, I figured it'd be better to go ahead and just talk about the car while I'm sitting in it, engine not running, so you guys can hear what I'm saying, because I also have to drive this with the top down because I'm so tall. You can see here, and my head's hitting this rail right now, and it's not even fastened. So with that being said, what's the Honda Beat like to drive? This car is a car that rewards you for driving it as fast as possible. While this is not a fast car, it gives the feeling of going fast because, again, it's got a 9,000 RPM red line, and it wants you to hit that red line every single gear. It's geared way out for you to be able to do that. Like, this thing does just fine cruising around at city speeds like 30, 40 miles an hour, but you can tell the engine's like, give me more, I want more. So it wants you to feed those revs all the time. This is a happy car. It is happy to be thrown around, and it's going to do it and do it pretty well. Again, now going back to the fact that this is a tiny, tiny car, I really don't have much room in here. It can be very claustrophobic. So anytime I'm driving this, I have that roof down because it makes the driving experience so much better. Trust me. Also, these seats are leather. You could option these out with zebra print cloth seats as well, both of which offer a good amount of bolstering, but not as much as you find in some other K sports cars. All things considered, it does hold you very well, and the padding is ample to where you can go on a road trip and be just fine sitting in it for like 2-3 hours at a time. But again, don't plan on road tripping this thing too hard, especially if you've got a passenger, because like we've already seen, there's not much room in the trunk area. And then also inside, there's just enough room for me to have like a bag, some photography equipment and things like that up here. It's not really meant to haul around a bunch of stuff. and a bunch of people and their stuff. Very recently, I took this Beat as well as the Suzuki Cappuccino and the AutoZam AZ1 out to an autocross event, and you could tell that the Beat was quick and it felt quick, but it definitely was not fast. Matter of fact, it was the slowest car in the field. That partially is due to me driving it, but regardless, this thing is a lot of fun, even though you're not going so fast. Again, this thing just feels fast. It wants you to drive it fast, and like you're going all the way through the gears. You can go all the way through third gear and you'll still have like a Nissan Altima pull up and go right past you. This thing is not meant for straight line speed. I'm pretty sure 0 to 60 on this thing is somewhere in the range of like 13 seconds. It's pretty slow. My minivan can outclass that. The clutch is one of the easier clutches in a sports car. It really has a nice feel to it. You can get a sense of where you're at in the clutch at all times. I'll just say this car is very hard to stall. Like, you can try to stall it and it won't. I mean, unless you don't know what you're doing, in which case, yeah, it will stall. But as far as just driving it around, I've not stalled it once. Took it on that autocross day, didn't stall it at all there. It's got a very nice pedal feel. The clutch is super easy. If you've ever driven a K-Truck, it's very much like a K-Truck because it's basically the same setup with this, just a little bit more horsepower and a smaller body. Now, cornering wise, a stock one of these cars, it's absolutely going to have the most body roll you can possibly imagine. These things are notorious for being able to kiss the curbs as you go around corners super hard with their front bumpers. It's hilarious to see, matter of fact. But with some stiffer springs, this thing makes a world of difference. Matter of fact, this car, I would kind of quantify it as a blank canvas in some ways. Suspension and the components around it being one of those areas where you can really improve this car. Stiffer springs, strut bar, put you some nicer, stickier tires on the car. This car will absolutely come alive. The key with this car is staying in the power band and making sure that you have enough speed to carry you into the next corner. Once you get down in your speed and revs, this car practically falls on its face. It likes being in the upper rev range. It likes being thrown around as well. So when you get that driving dynamic down right with this car, it is incredibly rewarding. All right, I'm gonna flog it down the mountain a little bit and get it in the upper rev so you guys can hear this thing for just a little bit. And I apologize for the camera noise. Well, there you have it. That's the Honda Beat. To summarize, this thing is possibly the most fun you can have sub 100 horsepower on 4 wheels. This thing is an absolute blast to drive, and as with most cars that I review, this one is available. Shout out to my friends at Southeast Imports. This is on their website. They're located in Southeast Tennessee. You guys should definitely go check them out because they've got all this cool inventory all around us, not just the Beat. But a huge thank you to them for loaning me their car for the afternoon. It's been an absolute blast. Before we go, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone that subscribed to me here recently. I just passed the 10,000 subscriber mark and I'm truly blessed. Thank you all so much for watching and enjoying the content that I put out. I genuinely appreciate every last one of you. And if you are not subscribed, then feel free to subscribe. You'll be able to see other cool car reviews just like this one you saw here today. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me out more than you know. Take care. We'll see you in the next one. Later.